Hey everyone, welcome back to some new r/Tales from the call center stories. I hope you had a great day. If you enjoyed today's video, please hit the subscribe button for more stories. And now let's start with the first story, shall we? It's called Not of My Household. Way back in 1998, I was working for a call center company. Our main business was from other companies outsourcing their customer service to us. My project was a benefits department for a telecommunications company. We handled enrollments and changes to the employee health insurance, life insurance, dental and such. One day a manager called in. You could always tell when it was a manager. They would always have you on speakerphone like they were doing you a favor by squeezing you into their busy schedule. This particular employee wanted to add his newborn son to his health insurance. I congratulated him and added the child in the system. And then I went through the standard spiel about how the coverage worked and advised him that he would receive the confirmation letter in the mail in 7 to 10 business days. At this point he asked if I could send the letter to his PO box instead. I said sure and put the address in the alternate field. What I did not know at the time was that the system would send the letter to both addresses. So fast forward about 2 weeks. I'm taking calls and I get a call from a lady who tells me that she is not the employee, her husband is the employee. She had a question about the coverage. No problem, as we were allowed to disclose such info to spouses. She gave me his social security number and it sounded familiar. While the system pulled up the info, I asked her how I could assist her. Well, we received a letter of confirmation about our child's health insurance and we don't have a new baby. Okay, no problem, let me check the system. By this time the system had pulled up the information, and lo and behold it was the same guy that had called 2 weeks prior to adding the new child. So I confirmed that the employee had called in on such and such date to add the new child, named David, born on such and such date. What followed was the coldest that I ever heard someone speak in my life up to that point. That child is not of my household and I want it removed from our insurance immediately. Not of your household? What do you mean? Oh. Yep, you guessed it. The husband had had a child with his mistress, added him to the coverage and tried to run this around his wife finding out, which failed miserably due to how our system worked. I had to explain to her in the calmest way possible that since her husband was an employee and had added the child, he would have to call to remove the child. She assured me that he would be calling back, thanked me for my help and hung up. I had to take myself out of the call queue for a few minutes to compose myself. As I did so, I heard hysterical laughter coming from the office at the end of the row of cubicles. A few minutes later, my supervisor's manager came down and asked me about the call. Apparently, they had been monitoring it for quality assurance and it was the funniest thing he had heard to date. The next story is called Don't Put Your Wife and Your Girlfriend on the Same Lease. Back a couple of years ago, I worked in a small inbound call center for a fleet company. Our department specifically handled calls from customers who had cars leased through their employers as part of their salary. We had a very strict privacy policy, but, and this is the important thing, you could have more than one additional person authorized on the account. A lady calls up asking for access to the details of her husband's lease. No problem, she has access and passed the security questions. We went through a few details and I could tell from the start that she was fishing for something. As soon as I opened the back leasing documents, I knew what was coming. It turns out that the husband has added his girlfriend onto the insurance and also as an authorized person on the account. Now we send the documents automatically to the email address held on file, which her husband stupidly has as his wife's email. She knows but wants to confirm if it was a mistake between accounts. I apologize and confirm the information while she is crying. She thanks me and after a few more minutes ends the call. I think this is terrible, but shrug and go on to the next call. But of course, that's not the end of it. A couple of hours later, the husband calls, yelling and screaming. Now, I didn't originally get this call, but it went to the most junior member of the team. And as the next senior staff member under the manager, she asked if I could take over the call for her. During the transfer, he never stopped yelling until he realized he was speaking to someone else. He rants and raves for a while until I security check him. I confirmed to him that he put his wife's and girlfriend's details on the account and it was his decision to do so. After he calms down a bit, it comes out why he's so upset. Turns out his wife also works for the same company, a different department, but senior to him. The first call she made was to her boss to have the company aware of the situation and to have them check the company credit card. It seems like the old maid was also treating his girlfriend to dinner on the company dollar as well as other personal expenses. He was summarily fired from his position. As the car is through the company, he no longer has a lease with us and has to pay the financier directly, and it was not cheap. He also lost all benefits, including fuel cards, maintenance and insurance. I could do nothing to help him. By the time he is called, all this information has come through from his employer and is effective immediately. In fact, the documents were already in the post and had been emailed. After calling her boss, it turns out that the wife had used the contact details she got sent and contacted the girlfriend, who was not aware that he was married. The girlfriend was apparently a little crazy and went to his workplace and keyed the car and punctured the tires. Now he can fill in an insurance claim because the policy wouldn't cancel until midnight. But he wanted roadside assistance and replacement tires. After about 30 minutes, I got through to him that he wouldn't be getting either and would have to arrange it himself. I also did recommend that he contacts the police. He finally ends the call after berating me, my employer and his former employer. He also sends in an email complaint against me personally. My boss shrugs it off, the big boss shrugs it off, and I continue to take calls. I know the wife was satisfied because she signed up for a lease herself a few weeks later. I spoke to her a couple more times while I still worked there. They got divorced and she got the house because it was a premarital asset, and I think he deserved everything he got for his stupid actions. The last story is called Not Urgent Enough. I work in an insurance call center handling complex technical calls and taking escalated calls. I handle escalations about billing and underwriting, which are usually a variation of "How dare you tell me that you won't insure me for free?" I work swing shift, so I handle more than just the garden variety crazy or demanding Karen. I handle the ones who are willing to call an insurance company at 2 AM to yell at someone. One day my headset beeps while I'm reading. It's a rep from our online team. He said to escalate a chat up to me because a customer will not accept the answers he's been giving for the last half hour, in writing no less. She has also made some changes to the policy while online with my rep, including deleting a driver. When an online rep escalates to yours truly, it entails the online rep calling out to the customer first. This particular online rep is a perfectly lovely individual with a distinctive accent. Apparently, the accent got under the customer's skin, to the point where she used racial slurs on him repeatedly. Upon introducing myself, Karen asked me where I'm physically located exactly. Her emphasis on the word exactly is extremely snotty and condescending. I was tempted to provide her with the latitudinal and longitudinal coordinates just to mess with her head. But she's not worth the time, so I give her only my state. Karen proceeds to tell me that because we are withdrawing $300 a month from her checking account when she only agreed to $70 a month, we are committing fraud. She wants $1,200 back. She then says that because she worked as a court reporter in her state, she knows all about how the law works. I note that her current policy term has been active for a little over 4 months. We had sent out a renewal offer back in the middle of July. The policy renewed in late August. The renewal offer included a payment schedule for $300 a month, starting with the renewal date. Along with a billing schedule was a summary of what changes had been applied, including changes to her response rating status. She has enrolled in online documents for everything, so I refer her to her emails. Her response: "Oh, I got the emails, but they weren't urgent enough for me to read. You guys need to tell me when something's urgent, so I'll pay attention to it. And I didn't give you permission to change my kid's status, so you did something that you weren't supposed to do. We are only obligated to send out the renewal offer to the address you've provided. Verification of your reading of those notices is not incumbent upon us per the Department of Insurance. By making your initial down payment with us, you agree to the terms and conditions we've outlined in our policy contract. We are merely enforcing the contract terms upon which you have agreed." Well, that's unethical, and we're in the middle of a pandemic. I told your salesperson not to put Kevin on my policy because I can't afford the insurance for him. Your salesman forced me to add Kevin because he lives in my household and drives my vehicle now that he has a driver license. I noted that Kevin was just deleted from the policy. I'm sorry you feel that adherence to our contract is unethical. Also, I will ask you to keep this call professional or we will discontinue this conversation. Now, does Kevin still operate your vehicle or live in your household? Yes, but I don't want him on my policy, because I don't want to pay $300 a month for insurance. I should only be paying $70 per month. And are you going to be giving me $1,200 back or what? I was smiling. Kevin needs to be added back onto your policy as a rated driver then. Should you choose not to have me add him to your policy, I will be referring this policy to our underwriting department. They will add him on for you. Furthermore, as you've admitted on a recorded line that you've received the email, we will not be accommodating any request to refund you that money, as there was no error made. She then calls me names and tells me how horrible I am at my job. I tell her I'm sorry she feels that way, but she has a choice to make. She hangs up on me after screaming names at me at the top of her lungs. Right as I'm documenting how unhinged Karen is and submitting an underwriting review, my boss messages me. It's a string of 3 emojis. Big eyes, view, big eyes again. Then the question, are you okay? That was rough. My response, I've been called worse by better, but can this call get me something like hazard pay? Well, funny you would mention that, because I'm messaging you to go over race information. Call me on our conference line. Turns out my boss wanted to tell me that he put me in for the max percentage bump this year. He was doing silent monitoring because he was completing the annual reviews for said race. His words, "You definitely earned it." The job can be tedious, but it's that much better when you have a boss who recognizes how hard you work and that you are good at your job. And that brings us to the end of today's video. If you enjoyed today's stories, please hit the like button. And if you missed the last video, you can click right here to get to it. I hope you have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.